What's up, college football fans and Mean Green fans? Sonoy Valente here once again with the Mean Green Show, joined by Miles and JD. And we're going to jump into this Tulsa preview game. But before we get into all that, guys, you already know the drill. If you're a fan of college football or G5 football, consider hitting that like and subscribe button because that's truly all that we talk about. All right, boys, I'm glad we could all jump on together again. I know it's been a little bit since we've had the timing, the scheduling. It's nuts. JD's in the middle of decorating for Christmas, so we stole it like the Grinch and got him on here. But just kind of jumping right into it, starting with you, Miles. What are your thoughts on this Tulsa game? And offensively, what do you think their game plan is going to be?
Well, I mean, Tulsa's not, they're not a very good team. It's just point blank simple. I mean, they've had a lot of different quarterbacks. They've had their highest passers have been Williams Full. They've put in four quarterbacks or five quarterbacks this year, so they have all these different guys that can play quarterback. And I mean, they're not that bad in the rushing defense. I mean, North Texas just needs to find the run game again. They could not run the ball against SMU very well. The only big offensive run was, I think, Attaway's touchdown, which wasn't even that big of a run. I mean, it was a significant run. It just wasn't that big of a yardage. So, I mean, but SMU's defense is a lot better, obviously. So, I mean, Tulsa does not bring as much of a challenge as we've faced the past 4 weeks. It's been the biggest gauntlet you could probably find in college football with that 4-game slate. I just hope North Texas can get the ball rushing on the ground again. I mean, they really need to do that. But at the same time, they're going to have to be able to stop them because when you give up 277 yards on the ground a game as the North Texas defense against a team that runs the ball pretty well in Tulsa, it's going to be an interesting game. But I think getting Rogers, getting not all those running backs, Day and Attaway involved more, and I think we'll have a good offensive game from North Texas, way better than what we saw last week.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with the loss, it kind of puts us, we're not really talking about bowl contention anymore. That's out of the picture. So I think with this next two games, it's got to give you confidence to build some confidence. But it also gets the chance to kind of see what we got in some of the younger guys. I think we've seen the last few weeks, Javen Anderson, Evan Jackson, Wazlowski, Jordan Brown, a lot of these guys that are younger, they've got a ton of eligibility left. Like, give them playing time. Let's see what we got. But also on the offensive side of the ball, build confidence, get the running game going, like Miles said. But also, like I said, get some young guys out there and let's see what we got. As I've spoke about, several times on several different podcasts, I think that, we're going to see a lot of turnover this offseason. Maybe it's a year late. We can argue, timing offseason, did they have enough time? Were they kind of behind the 8 ball? I don't know if it's going to be on the level of Texas State type turnover, but I would not be surprised if, you don't see a lot of portal JUCO guys coming in here to kind of fill this roster and get us kind of where we're competitive. And it's hard to say, I don't really want to say competitive because before last week, we played probably the 3 of the top 4 teams in the American one-possession game. So I really don't think we're far off. I do believe in Eric Morris. And to an extent, I still think Capone's got a chance to turn this thing around. He gets the right players that fit his system. I think it's, on offense, we see, when Seth came in, took over McCarney, more of a power run team, going to the air raid. A quarterback can change the system. You don't have to go and get a full new 11 guys. I think defense is kind of completely different. We've seen this team go from 3-man front to a 4-man front, back to a 3-man front. And I think it's just, we lost some talented guys, and I think they're pretty depleted on that side of the ball. So, but I do like I said, I think the highlight of the SMU game was getting to see some guys get some key playing time and kind of contribute and hopefully be ready to play next year.
Yeah. So as we're filming this, it's Monday evening, and currently I think North Texas is 2.5-point favorites just by the scores and odds thing that I'm looking at. So it's been a while since I can't remember what last time in the season since North Texas has been favored on the road. I would probably was FIU, and then obviously that went sideways. So that being said, Miles, how imperative do you think these next 2 games are for this North Texas team? And yeah, just your thoughts there.
It'll really help for next year, especially. A lot of the younger guys are on defense right now. You look at, like JD said, Javen Anderson, Smith, Patrick Smith, Jalen Smith. all those guys that are playing a lot more minutes on defense. It's actually impressive, but at the same time, it's going to help for next year, especially. They have these reps. They have reps against not just average teams. They're playing against some of the best offenses in the conference and SMU in the country. I mean, SMU is a very good offense, so they're getting a lot of exposure to these more higher powered teams and really more developed players. I think a big key this off season is to get more of a bigger team. I mean, it's very obvious. The last few games, North Texas has been out heightened, if that's even a word. I mean, they've just been completely towering over the whole defense. And I think winning these next 2 games will give them more positive momentum going into next year, a better offseason. If you lose these next 2 games, it's not the end of the world, but I mean, it would look really bad. And you don't lose on senior day. That's the thing too. No matter how bad UAB is, you just don't lose on senior day. So I think they win these next 2 games. It'll help them a lot. And, rolling into next year, hit the portal hard. And I think this will be a good opportunity to kind of showcase these guys and hopefully not lose anybody as important to the portal that we know of right now. So,
yeah, I mean, definitely, like I said, build confidence. And, the way it looks like on paper, we've got a lot of guys coming back. There's some guys that make me nervous, that could potentially hit the portal. But I do think that, I mean, we're seeing even with the JUCO offers, I mean, 6'3", 325, 6'4", 290. I mean, they're getting size. They're after size, and I mean, I think that's key. I mean, I think if you're able to bring in here a 320-pound nose tackle, you're able to move Rod Brown, out to one of the outside defensive line positions. I think that completely changes the look of your defense just by bringing in one guy. So, but yeah, I think these are 2 winnable games. I think we had a probably one of the hardest stretches in the country as far as G5 schools. I mean, Tulane, we've seen what they've done. They've struggled this year, but they keep winning. A win's a win. Memphis is a very a good team. And then obviously UTSA and SMU is doing what they're doing. So, I mean, I think that the team, to me, seems like we've been trending up. Now, obviously, the SMU game left a bad taste in all of our mouths, but SMU's SMU, and I mean, they've bought a very good team. I think there's no way around it. I mean, that they're a Power 5 caliber team. I think they're, in my eyes, I think they're favorites, should be favorites to win the conference. They're I feel like the most all-around team. But part of me is kind of glad. I know a lot of people were upset when they announced they were leaving to the ACC. I'm glad. I mean, I don't think Memphis, Tulane, UTSA, North Texas, none of these guys are going to be able to compete when you're going up against a team like SMU that's got a Power 5 NIL budget. So I'm kind of glad to see them go. I mean, they've had our number. It seems like even in years I felt like we should have beat them. So I'm kind of glad to have that chapter gone for a little bit. And it kind of, feel like opens up and makes a little more even playing field throughout the conference. But yeah, I think, like I said, after getting kicked in the teeth the last 4 weeks, it would be nice to wrap up this season and with 2 wins and kind of trending up going into the off season.
Yeah, SMU bought a really good team and an even better conference. So that's probably just the saltiness of, us, the last game, obviously. But yeah, they're great. I agree with you, JD. I think it's just really hard to compete with that type of NIL money. I mean, I don't see how a lot of kids would turn that down, to be quite frank. So yeah, I think there's a lot of positives with them moving on to, a different conference. We're getting a little bit off topic, mostly my fault as far as this Tulsa game specifically goes, though. So Miles, what do what's your anticipation for this North Texas offense against this Tulsa defense?
I mean, Rogers has put up numbers that is top 20 in the country in a lot of categories. I mean, he's a great quarterback. He's been able to sustain his success against some really good teams. I mean, 4 interceptions through in 337 attempts. That's really good. I mean, he's had a great stretch. He got a little unlucky that last game, but I mean, if he has the talent to keep it going. I mean, he threw for 400 plus against Memphis. He can definitely do against this type of team. I mean, Tulsa is not that good of a team, and if North Texas can just get the ball rolling, it won't be that difficult. And just keeping, it's really just keeping themselves in the game. You can't have a lot of 3 and outs because your defense is not going to be able to help you out very much. And when you know your defense is not going to be able to help you out as much as they should, you gotta be able to score. And that's what they didn't do last game. They're gonna have to do it this game and throughout the rest of the year. And hopefully next year it'll be more improved. But for right now, I mean, just get that ball rolling, especially with Rodgers, because he's a pure talent. He's the best quarterback we've had since Mason Fine. And you can argue with that with Ani, but he's been more pure, and I think he's going to be great next year. But I'm excited to see just how they can really spread out the offense after the last games just was very disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I think this Tulsa team, their offense hasn't been a world beater this year. They did take Tulane to the wire. They lost a close one to Charlotte, but then before that, they got destroyed, by Rice and SMU. So Rodgers is a generational talent. I think he's very talented. I think this offense is very exciting. But I'd like to see this defense, going up against a team like Tulsa that's kind of struggled, have a game that's kind of a statement game, that things are trending in the right direction. I do think that this Tulsa game's big. I mean, we talked about SMU being able to buy their team. Tulsa's a team that we're going head to head on several recruits for. So, I mean, I think this is a big game as far as heading to the offseason, recruiting battles. There's a offensive tackle in Oklahoma right now that I feel like it's between us and Tulsa. So going to Tulsa and getting a victory, I think would be huge, not only for confidence, not only for fan charisma or morale, whatever you want to call it, but I think also it could lend some benefits getting close to the December signing day.
Okay, and just so it's clear, I mean, again, as far as the Capone talk, I've been kind of hard on him earlier in the season personally, and I think rightfully so. We are like the last defense in the nation, I think. So, but nevertheless, I mean, he was brought here to run the 3-3-5, and he's been doing that. So, I'm not really sure who to point the finger at when it comes to that, as far as if it's his unwillingness to work that in with some four-man front, or is that what Coach Morse wants, to just stick with a 3-3-5? I don't really know whose call that is on that. I'm assuming it's Capone's, but again, I don't know. So do we think his job is completely safe regardless of what happens these next two games? Or if Tulsa comes out and puts up 350 yards on the ground, does that make either one of you guys, starting with you, Miles, maybe it's not completely safe? Any thoughts there?
I mean, I just can't see it. I mean, he has a pretty solid contract. He hadn't had a full year. I mean, they were behind with that stupid bowl game. They were behind in a lot of the recruiting and getting Coach Morris officially underway. So, he didn't get to get all the guys he wanted. I know they recruited pretty well because a lot of the guys from this last class are actually playing on the field and starting. So, I mean, it's not like they did a bad job. I think he just needs to have a year where he can get all of his guys in here, weed out the people that don't need to be on this team, and, really get, I think, the right assistants in there as well, and have a more complete offseason, because I know these young guys have the capability to be really good. And that's what scares me, because those NIL deals from Power 5 schools might just take them right away next year. But you can't think about that now. I think he's here for at least next year, no matter what happens. I mean, Tulsa could put up 700 yards and we lose by 10, and I still think he's here. And I wish that sounds awful, but if they did that, that'd be pretty bad. But I don't think he moves on unless something really bad happens, like off the field, or I just don't think it happens. I think he has a track record, so it's not like he's been a bad coach. Like when Bowen came here, that was bad. He's not a good coach. I'm sorry, but you have a guy like Capone who's younger. He just needs his guys. He needs the right people in the system. Change things up in the offseason. Have a good spring, and I think we're rolling at least top 100 next year. I cannot see a defense worse than this year's defense. You just can't see it. I think it's impossible. I really think it's impossible.
I mean, I'm not sitting here saying I'm the fan of a 3-3-5. I mean, if I was the head coach, I'd probably do a 4-2-5 defense. I mean, I thought Phil Bennett, in my opinion, is one of my favorite defensive coordinators in the history of football. But we even saw when we hired him, I mean, it wasn't a quick fix. He didn't come in here and turn things around game one. I mean, I think they started 0-6, 1-6, whatever it was. So I think even if you fire Capone, I feel like you're still throwing you're bypassing next year, and you're still not going to see the results till 2 years. So I think if you fire Capone, you start all over again from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the answer. And like Miles said, Capone's got a track record. I mean, and I hear people say all the time, I hear past players, I've had people reach out, North Texas can't get people to the 3-3-5. I don't think that's the case anymore. I just think with the transfer portal, the way JUCO recruiting is now, and even the way high school recruiting is, I feel like there's more talent available. And I mean, you look at Capone and Cratch coming from an Iowa State. Iowa State's had arguably the best defense in the Big 12 the last decade. And Iowa State's on signing day, they're not the ones that ESPN's talking about, oh, they got all these great defensive players. They're not getting, 350-pound 5-star defensive linemen. Like, that's not the way the Iowa State defense is built. So, I mean, I don't think we're going to go out there and, have to get 4-star defensive linemen to make this defense work. I do think you're going to have to get, 320-pound nose tackle. And I think there's plenty of those to choose from. And I think that what I've liked that I've seen just in the, 10, 12 months they've been here is, Cratch and Capone. It seems like they've kind of remind me of Eckler back in the day of turning over every rock, going and finding a JUCO tight end to turn into a linebacker. I mean, they're not just going to DeSoto and, where's I need the best defensive lineman. Like, that's not the way that they've recruited. That's not the way they recruited at Iowa State. So that part gives me hope that, just because the 3-3-5 hasn't worked at North Texas in the past, doesn't mean that they can't get it successful here. Because we've seen, G5 programs, San Diego State, we've seen those top schools run the 3-3-5 and have success. So I'm in the group, or whatever you want to call it, to say I definitely think if it was me, I'd give Capone another shot. This is the route that we wanted to go. And I think he needs the time to be able to get the players in place to get it turned around. I don't want to start over from scratch. And, I feel like like I said, you're just punting it, one more year down the road and just setting us back a little bit further.
All right. Lastly, before we jump off here, Miles, do you have a point prediction for this Tulsa game?
Man, I mean, these days I don't know what's going to happen with this team. I thought they were going to lose by 20 plus to Tulane, and then they end up losing by just a touchdown. I think this offense is good enough to put up 40 plus points, really. I mean, they have all the key pieces. I mean, Tulsa gave up 42 to Rice, and that was with JT Daniels, but Rogers is a better quarterback than JT Daniels has. So I think, right now. So I think it's a 45-42 is my prediction. I just can't see this defense holding under 42, no matter who they're playing. I mean, I just can't see it.
So 45-42 with North Texas winning?
Yes, I think they do. I think they cover the spread. I think they win. I just don't think it's going to be very pretty, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, Tulsa struggled to stop the passing game, so I think this can kind of be Chandler Rogers, big. I mean, he's had some, I guess, coming out parties. He's had several, but I think this is going to be kind of a statement in a win. So I'm looking at, I'm going to say 48-35 North Texas.
All right. Well, anything else we need to touch on, guys, before we hop off?
I mean, there's not a very good chance to make a bowl at 5-7, but right now there's only 52 teams that are bowl eligible out of 86 spots, and our APR is not that great, but there is the slimmest chance in the world we make a bowl at 5-7. I think that would be kind of funny, even though I don't think we should make a bowl.
No,
we should just start.
And I hate to be that guy, and I hate it for the seniors that are leaving, but at this point, I've just seen, just from covering recruiting, there's only so many official visit weekends you get after the season, and then it seems like we always get stuck with that bowl game that's right in the middle, and we always miss an official visit weekend. I feel like this team being able to have an extra official visit weekend is more important than going to the Albuquerque Bowl or the Frisco made up bowl. I hate that because I mean, like Mason Richards, there's several seniors that are leaving that you hate them not having a chance to win a bowl game. But I think for the future of the program, I'm in the group that says, let's, even if we had the chance, which I don't know, I think APR grades or whatever, I don't think we're as good a position as we were a couple of years ago. We made a bowl game with 5 wins, but yeah, I'm saying let's go ahead and get to the off season and let the fun begin. Because I am selfishly kind of excited about that, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of excitement and turnover coming in the next 3 or 4 months.
I'm excited, and I'm excited for spring ball. I'm excited for spring ball already. I'm excited to see what this new class has and all these transfer guys, and I'm just excited to see what Morris and them can actually cook up in their off season that they actually have instead of their 1 week before early signing period. So I'm
Yeah,
excited.
I mean, I think that's, and like you talked about earlier, I mean, I think, just to see what these guys did, they missed the whole early signing period. And then, we're still able to get guys like Javen Anderson and Evan Jackson and be able to find those guys. So, um, that part's kind of, I mean, that's exciting to me is with this staff that we've talked about and Coach O and this recruiting staff they've built. I mean, with giving them a full off season and now they know what they've got on the roster. There's not a lot of unknowns because, I mean, even a lot of these, I mean, Capone and them, they seen guys in off-season workouts, but they really didn't know what they had until spring. And then you're still losing guys during spring and after spring. So, I mean, having a full year to be able to evaluate what's in your roster, the staff knows what they need now. And I think that's going to give them an upper hand to be able to really make some changes and get the guys in they need.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's to getting another conference win, hopefully. And as always, go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.